2020.
Hello, everyone. All members are present. First item is number 2, approval of the minutes from June 16th, 2020, July 1st, 2020. I would entertain a motion. Member Walrab, second. Member Barnett. Any questions on that? All right, ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Or
Roll call.
I'm sorry, we have to roll call.
Will the chairman vote?
I will vote. I'll vote on everything.
You'll vote on everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Member Metzger.
Wait, that came on.
Oh,
well,
okay. Just come on over here and we'll check on
Are
it.
you gonna make some in there?
you need to vote.
Can you say yes on minutes or no on minutes?
Yes.
Thank you.
If you want to stay in here, we'll just trade back and forth because we can sit. right
It's
there.
actually okay if you can do that.
I moved it over there. I hope I didn't record.
I'm so sorry. That would be me that needs to continue.
You're next.
I apologize. Member Erickson.
Yes.
Member Woolrab.
Yes.
Member Robustelli.
Yes.
Member Beard.
Yes.
Member Barnett.
Yes.
Chairman.
Yes.
Carries.
Okay, I believe we have no appearance by members of the public. Is that correct?
Correct, Chairman.
All right, we'll jump right in the agenda then. I'd like to make a little correction with the approval. E1A under the administrator's items. The gentleman, we would like to give him the courtesy of letting him go first. So we're going to move him to ahead of departmental matters unless there's objection. Does anyone have an objection to that? I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Rodriguez, you can go ahead and lead us off on E1A.
Thank you, Chairman Soldner. Under item E1A, and I thank the committee for giving Mr. David Roche the grace of not having to wait through the entire meeting until my portion of the agenda. I have an item to present for action. It is request approval of a resolution of the County of McLean authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the county and the town of Normal, McLean County, Illinois, and authorizing Normal to exercise the powers of the County of McLean in connection with an MCC program and loan finance program. There is a memo explaining as such, beginning on page 27 of your packet, and the rest of the documents are therein through page 41. And I will turn it back over to you, Chairman.
Yes, to get this on the floor, I would entertain a motion in a second. Motion, Member Beard. Someone? Member Burnett, I believe you were first. Okay. So do you want to start us, Ms. Rodriguez?
I definitely can. I know that Mr. Roche is present. I believe he's caller 1. And what I'll say, Mr. Roche, I know you're the expert on this. I believe and understand that McLean County government has been involved for years in this incentive program, but that there is just simply through the town of Normal a different administrator than there was in the past. And so the need to bring forth this intergovernmental agreement is simply because now the town of Normal has taken over the responsibilities. And Mr. Roche, if you're on the line, it would be great for you to expound or give us any more information that you think the membership might need to consider this action.
Sounds quiet.
It does. I wasn't present at the beginning of the meeting when everyone was convening, so I'm not quite sure if he was able to make it in. I can attempt to answer questions. I did speak with Mr. Roche at least a month and a half ago about this and received all the information in the mail, and I'm presenting it to you. Nothing about the agreement per se changes. There is no financial obligation on the part of the county. We don't contribute budgetarily to this. It is simply that it is our conveyance of support and acknowledgement that the administrator has changed and that it's now the town of Normal is the reason we're bringing it in front of you all this evening.
Anyone have any questions? Doesn't look like it. It's in my mind, it's a good thing that we're doing again, and I think that we all want to help out the best we can for our home buyers. So if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and vote. All right, roll call vote. I'll vote.
Thank you. Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Aye.
Member Castelli,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Yes.
Chairman Solomon.
Yes.
This passes.
Okay, thank you all very much. So we'll go ahead and move on with the rest of the agenda for A1. It's Marshall Thompson, Director of Animal Control. She has no items as far as action goes, monthly reports. I don't believe she's with us, but I know if we have any questions, I'm sure we can get them answered. I did notice that on her report that it appears that we've had a pretty big uptick both in cat and dog registrations. And I'm not sure what the rationale behind that is, but I don't know whether, Camille, you have any insight into that or not.
Chairman Soldner, I do not, and I think we all know how much expertise Marshall has in this area of her operations. I do not have a reason for the uptick. So we certainly can get back to the membership on that.
Not a problem. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, we will move right along then. Next item on the agenda is FB1A, of course, general report. Our auditor is not with us today. I invited her to join us. She had other obligations, so I guess, is there any questions on her report? I see no questions. Member Barnett?
Well, this is a question to do with the auditor in general, not necessarily the report from the auditor.
No problem.
This is the appropriate time to ask that.
You may go ahead.
I didn't know if you or if Administrator Rodriguez had heard any more about the auditor posting the bills on the website as had been done for a long time and suddenly stopped last fall.
I sent her an email earlier when we were talking about the issue with the Public Building Commission. She did not mention that. Honestly, I was hoping that she would give that information on her own, but she didn't. I don't know, Ms. Rodriguez, do you have any insight into that?
Member Barnett and Chairman Soldner, I have emailed Auditor Anderson multiple times making the request as such. I believe Member Woolrab was one to bring it up initially, and each time thereafter, I followed up with an email to Ms. Anderson, and I have not received a response.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your efforts anyway.
Thank you.
As to the Public Building Commission issue, again, I emailed her. Her response was, let me see if I can read it to you so that I don't misquote. 1 second here. In short, the delay on the PBC is that the administration has yet to bring us an invoice. The original invoices are needed to process the payment. Every prior administrator for 13 years has delivered paper invoices to us to approve and release the 1.4 million. If Ms. Rodriguez and her staff bring an invoice, we will gladly review and approve. And again, I know I got a response from administration. Do you like to go ahead with that? You may.
Well, I would absolutely like to respond to that. Certainly, county administration did deliver a paper invoice as well as an electronic, which I actually find to be a little more secure. So we did both, and we did both more than once. So when we did not receive a response, and when the Public Building Commission was asking where their payment was, I felt the responsibility to take some action. I did not do so alone. I emailed, so the membership knows, I emailed Chairman Soldner as well as County Board Chairman McIntyre to get the assurance from them that I had their support to authorize our treasurer to make this payment to the Public Building Commission. So that is where county administration stands. We followed the same course of action that other administrations prior to me have done. We did the same. So thank you for that opportunity.
I think that we all know, issues in the past and the request for her to attend. Again, she had an excuse, a reason for not attending today. I don't want to divulge that because I was reprimanded by her last time when I did that. We know well in advance when our committees meet. She's had, in my mind, she's had ample opportunity to respond. My biggest concern is she's not willing to respond to emails from administration. She did respond to mine, but we can't fix anything if we can't communicate. So does any other member have a comment or question? Member Metzger first.
Yes, we had a situation with Show Bus also, and then there was another situation of not, she was the only person that has access to a online release. And did we get that resolved? So she's not the only person, because there was a delay in filing some paperwork, I believe, from Show Bus. Is that correct?
Would you like me to respond?
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Yes, Member Metzger, what you're alluding to is the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, or GATA portal. It is through the state of Illinois, and it is where, among other things, we would receive like a notice of state award, or we enter in certain financial documents. Ms. Anderson is the only individual that has access to that portal. I will have to say that it is the one issue that I have no answer to at all. We can suggest getting together and talking and trying to solve problems, but in this case, I really probably just, with your support, may need to contact the Government Office of Budget and Management and just ask for an override so that more than one individual from the county can have access. It would only be best practice for more than one individual to be able to access the portal. So we probably should make that happen as soon as possible.
All right, Ms. Metzger, anything else on that? All right, Ms. Woolrab, Member Woolrab.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't know if we want to discuss this now, but speaking of problem solving, I'm going to go back to the bills paid information that no one can see at this point and how we might resolve that. I think I had suggested that maybe it just comes in our committee packets for that particular committee and then be included in the minutes for the meeting, so people can, they'll see what meeting it relates to, and it'll be done without having to wait for an auditor to do it. But I don't know if that's necessarily the best suggestion, but I think that information going forward, and hopefully back since October forward till now, will be available to the public and to us as well.
How is that logistically? Will that add a lot to our packet, or what kind of numbers are we talking about?
It will add some pages to all of your packets, but it is something that my staff and I can, and even with perhaps I'm volunteering here without asking first, but our treasurer could assist us in running some reports out of our New World system. So certainly it would add some pages, but I think that at this point, it's worth it for the membership and the public to be able to have access to the transactions. We can definitely do that going forward. And actually, I don't think he'll mind, but Member Barnett, in his role as property chair, has already asked that I commence that activity. So we're all in line with the same sort of vision to be able to see these transactions.
Right. Member Robustelli?
Chairman, thanks. You said that you were able to get responses from the auditor, but it sounds like the county administrator is not able to get responses for the auditor on these kind of inquiries. I'm just curious, is the auditor in the building? Like, is there a way to go down and have a conversation with her when you don't get a response over the course of time, or are the social distancing requirements not allowing for that? I mean, who's in the auditor's office? Is there a way to contact her just in person and see what's going on? And if so, how has that gone?
May I?
Mhm.
So I will say, thank you, Member Robustelli. Even with social distancing, I do sometimes go visit department heads, depending on the situation. I have not seen Ms. Anderson, our auditor, in the building for several months. I don't go visit every day. So an unfair assumption that she has never been here in the last few months. She has one staff person who is in the office, and that person works to assist us as much as they can. But Ms. Anderson holds, the supervisory authority over that individual. So I use all respect with how much I ask of this person to do. I just personally have gone down there and she is not there. So there is no way for us to talk with her in person.
Okay, that's helpful. I just wonder, does the county as an organization have a work from home policy that people can apply for under certain circumstances so that we know who's working from home and who's working in the office?
Thank you. Yes, actually, our work from home policy was one of the policies, among others, that I brought to the county board on March 26th of this year to allow the county administrator's office the discretion to allow certain classifications of employees to work from home relative to the issue of the pandemic. I would have to consult with our attorneys to advise you as to whether or not any of those policies actually apply directly to an elected official. So I don't believe that it's possible for me to hold pound for pound those policies to someone who is elected to their position as a department head.
So that, but under those constraints, how do we hold an elected official accountable to any of the policies? So, the vacation policy or the sick leave policy, presumably they have to fill out paperwork for those things. So if somebody is not coming into work for some reason, there should be some paperwork they have to fill out, right?
Presumably, well, it isn't presumable for any other county employee who is not elected. They have to fill out paperwork, or, for example, if they need to apply for FMLA, they need to fill that out. If they are taking a vacation, they need to document it as such so that the payroll folks can document that you were not in the building, you were on vacation. I do not feel that I'm equipped right now to precisely answer your question as to whether or not elected officials are required to do the same. I don't believe so, because if they were, that information would come to me. And I don't, for example, as an exchange, I do not complete a personnel evaluation on an elected department head, but I do on an appointed. So I do believe there are nuances, and I don't want to speak out of turn and give you or the public the impression that I'm an expert in this area right here and now without having some of the policies in front of me. I apologize.
Yeah, and just so it's clear, the only reason I'm asking is it seems to me that it'd be really important for us to know who, especially at that leadership level, is working from home versus in the office. If they're working from home, that's fine. It's just, it seems like you, in your attempts being down in the office, hadn't seen the auditor. And so you shouldn't have to guess as to whether or not, I don't think that the county administrator should be able to evaluate an independent elected official. I understand that, but what I'm talking about is just more organizational management and how it should work. And if somebody's working from home, I would hope that your office would at least be given a heads up and that that's happening. And that way you would know how to best communicate with that department head. And it just sounded like there was some ambiguity there. So perhaps just getting, maybe Chairman, maybe this is for you, getting an understanding, is the auditor working from home or in the office maybe we can improve communication if we knew a little bit more about her working arrangement, and we can make accommodations.
Thank you. If I may bring one more, my assessment on this is a reasonable person would believe that this individual is working from home, because when our customer service station in the East Street parking lot was in operation for the entirety of the government center up until just last Friday, Ms. Anderson was dropping off invoices there. So somehow she was picking them up, taking them home, and then dropping them back to the customer service center after she had done review of them. So that only led us to believe that she must be working from home, since the communication isn't there. I will say one last thing. She did communicate with Assistant County Administrator Dreyer relative to her budget meeting, which is scheduled, I believe, for Friday. Forgive me if it's Thursday, but it's this week, and requested a link to GoToMeeting to participate. So, and to bring her staff. So, I mean, in that sense, there is a small amount of communication, but I'm assuming that it's work from home.
All right. Member Metzger.
There we go. Two things. Number one, I wanted to validate Krebs' request and also Member Barnett's request. So we will potentially see all of the bills like when I was on the Transportation Committee. Is that what we're talking about for all of these committees now? That's what we're requesting of the treasurer now?
If I may answer, Member Metzger, I do believe that at least when I spoke with Member Barnett yesterday, that was his request for the Property Committee. It is what already occurs for transportation. It would be something that we would want to assist the treasurer with as much as we could. She has a small staff as well. We'd work together to make it happen if this could mitigate the issue. We're always willing to do the work.
So these, the sheets or the documents of all of those bills are received from the treasurer's office then, is what you're telling me?
They're placed into, I'm not sure if it's the general ledger, but they're placed into our New World system. There's a way for us to generate reports. We would never want to manually move those numbers into a spreadsheet for you. That would just bring inaccuracies. And so there is a way for us to go into our financial system after all of those are entered and print off a report for you that you could have as a part of your packet for each committee.
So they're entered by the treasurer's office, or are they entered by the auditor's office?
I would have to ask the treasurer to answer that question. I don't get that deep into the operational details to know that if it's both or just one, but I'm certain that it has to be one. It's going to have to be someone to do it, and if it can't be the auditor's office, then it will have to be someone in accounts payable in the treasurer's office.
Okay. The only other thing, which is more in relation to or regarding Member Robustelli's questions, I'm sure that there are state statutes related to elected officials, because I know when I was I'm a township supervisor, and we were having difficulty with our county clerk, our township clerk, we were unable to, because she was an elected official, we were not able to demand her to attend meetings and do the things that needed to be done. And the only way to correct that was for the voters to not elect her. So that's how it ended up happening for us. I'm assuming that it's similar, but I don't know, but I'm sure there are state statutes that potentially the state's attorney could probably provide us with the statute on that, but I would assume that that's where it's at. I doubt they have to be in the office if she's capable of getting the work done outside of the office. or not even doing the work. I'm not saying that isn't happening. I'm just stating a fact. So that's all I have.
All right. Member Wolrab and then Member Erickson.
What I just wanted to clarify was, regardless of where the actual information comes from, it had been posted on the auditor's website for years and years by month for each committee, but for some reason that ceased after September. And so there's no way that I know of that we or the public can see the detail of what bills are being paid. When we approve those large dollar figures, there's detail behind them. None of us see it, and I think it would be a good idea to see it at least retrospectively, if not along with our packet, so maybe we have a question here or there. So just like on Transportation Committee. So I was requesting that it be included in our packets from now on.
I will communicate with the auditor, see if I can get a response from her if there is a rational reason. Again, I don't want to speak for her because I don't know, but I will see if she will respond to my question. Member Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A little bit of our conversation here is speculation. We don't know actually exactly if she's coming in or if she's not coming in or if she's working from home. It just seems to me that the solution is just continually invite her to come to our meetings. And if she comes, she comes. And if she doesn't come, she doesn't come. And the voters can decide what or if anything they wish to do with that. But just ask the chairman, just continue to invite her to our meetings to answer questions of the members. And beyond that, anything else is speculation tonight. So
I agree, and I'll be glad to do that. All right. Anything else on the auditor? Any questions? All right. Well, we don't have any action items again under her part. So the next item is letter 4, number 4C1. Ms. McNeil, 2 items for action. One is to author the authority to authorize and approve vendor maintenance. And she's with us. I would entertain a motion to approve that. Member Wolrab, second. Member Robustelli. Ms. McNeil, nice to see you.
Yeah,
You may take off your mask.
Good evening. In regards to this request, this is a direct result of AP being transferred to the treasurer's office and the current lack of cooperation and lack of communication that is occurring. As you read the memo, you can understand that vendor maintenance is a significant function of AP. And in order for us to efficiently and effectively do our job, I think at this point in time, there needs to be another individual that can perform vendor maintenance.
Okay, could I ask, are you suggesting completely taking it away from her or just adding a second?
No, I'm suggesting that you also give the authority to the treasurer's office, not remove the authority from her office, but give the authority to the treasurer's office as well. There are very, very simple changes and updates that we have that we need to have made, and unfortunately, in some cases, we have sent numerous requests. You know, when those updates are not made in a timely manner, it creates delays in payments. It creates ACH issues. And, you know, we just feel that we can perform our jobs more efficiently and effectively if we have the ability to go in and make an update as soon as we see that it needs to be updated. Otherwise, what we're doing is we're sending emails and sending emails and sending emails that are not responded to. And then when the update is finally made, we're not notified either of that. So it really is about communication. And I need to be able to work with my staff when my staff are communicating their concerns to me. at that point in time, I need to step in. So this is not something that we want to be a part of. It's not something that I want to do. I do not want to take on any more additional work, but we've got to be able to get things taken care of in a more timely fashion.
Logistically, is there going to be an issue as far as you have to know a password, or how are you going to be able to?
Well, I will obviously, in the financial system has functions that are delegated. I'll be working with IT to get that function delegated to my department. And then there will be certain individuals that will have authorities to do a final update. So, obviously we will take a very careful approach. If there's any information the auditor would like to share, she's more than welcome to do so. And we'll be consulting with New World. I have a couple treasurers that also work with the same financial system, and they do vendor maintenance. So, we obviously have to go through a learning curve, but I think this is the best thing overall.
Okay. Anybody have any comments or questions? Member Beard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Treasurer McNeil. I appreciate this, and as it relates to our last conversation, I would like our administration, and this is you as well, to continue to bring forward ways that we can provide to, we can get away from a single point of failure. So if there are other instances where only one person has access, like only the auditor has access to approve something, completely agree with the comments that we need to get away from that, even in good circumstances, let alone when things aren't working well. So I'm completely supportive of that and want us to get to that place. With regards to this specifically, one question I do have, and I'm supportive of it, is this creating a situation where only one or two people now can see a bill come in and then approve payment of that bill? Because one of the original designs of having an auditor and a treasurer and that go through two offices is the idea that a single person can't receive an invoice and then pay that invoice. And again, not here, but other governmental entities have had, and even in the private sector, that's where a lot of fraud happens, a lot of issues happen. So are there still safeguards in place, and can you describe that process to ensure we have different individuals, different entities who are receiving invoices and then turning around and paying those invoices? Thank you.
Let me describe the process. I don't know that we've ever done this, but so a department receives an invoice. They code that invoice and approve it, and they send it over to the auditor's office for payment or for approval. When the auditor's office receives those invoices, they review them and audit them and then stamp them approved for payment. That paperwork then comes into the treasurer's office. And at that point in time, my AP staff, they will log that in. They will enter it into the financial system. They will scan that invoice, attach it to the transaction, and they will update all of that. I have another person that edits their work. And then those invoices are then released and checks are written. When those checks are written, they copy those checks, and they attach a copy of that check to that invoice. And then when everything is over with and done, the original invoices and a copy of our check register goes back to the auditor's office. So you can see that there is a tremendous flow of work, but what it does is, you could say that this might be inefficiency, but at the same time, what you're doing is you do have that check and balance in place. You have a number of eyes taking a look at that. Sometimes things will get all the way to the point of my staff reviewing them and my staff saying, hey, you know what, something doesn't look right. When it's been through the department, it's been authorized by the department, it's been authorized by the auditor's office, and then my staff gets it, and they're kind of like, like a third check and balance. So I'm very pleased with the process in place. I would certainly like for it to be more automated. But, you know, we're doing everything that we can by scanning that invoice in. So then the department at the department level, when they log on to the financial system, they can go in and they can click a button and they can see that invoice that tied to that transaction. That's something that we started doing back in 18 when AP moved over to us. So that's the process of how it works. Where we're at right now, this request today is coming to you because there are times in which a bill would get all the way to us for payment. And my staff then, when they go to enter it into the system, they see that an ACH account number needs to be updated, or they see that an address needs to be updated, or they see that a vendor might be set up, but the vendor's not activated for us to use. And so that's where I can step in and go through the process of making those updates so they can push that work out. So that payment, that invoice is not sitting there waiting to be paid. Currently, that's what happens. We have to, in many cases, wait for the auditor to make those updates before we can actually release that payment. Or we have to go in and kind of finagle our way through it to be able to proceed forward. The last thing I want to do is see an invoice sit there and not be paid because we're waiting for updates to the vendor file. And that's the reason for my request.
Okay. Member
Thank you.
Barnett? I'm
Great
sorry.
explanation. Thank
Member Barnett?
I just wanted to make sure I heard what Treasurer McNeil said correctly. Sometimes things come from the auditor's office approved for payment, but the address is not correct. The ACH number may not be correct, but yet somehow it's been approved and it's okay to be paid and have a check or a payment sent to that vendor.
Let me explain to you. They don't have, I don't know that when they go in that every time that they're approving a bill for payment, that they're actually checking the vendor and you know, the address against the vendor. And I wouldn't, you know, I'm not asking them to do that. It's just that when we get it and we notice that something needs to be updated, we'd like for that update to occur, like same day, not 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now or a month from now. You can see if that, you know, if we have access, if I have access and my chief deputy, if she has access, we can go in and process that update and approve it within minutes. So that's what we're asking for, is just to streamline the process and improve the communication. And I think that will make it much easier for my staff.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, I'm supportive of this.
All right. Any other questions? Member Erickson?
Mr. Chairman. You know, I'm not hearing from the treasurer that necessarily that there are mistakes being made in the auditor's office. It's just, this is the process of human processes that goes through, and things go through, that things happen. And it's not necessarily that the auditor is negligent or making mistakes. It just might be more easier that to correct an issue, that the treasurer may be able to correct it from her office in a more quicker way than to send it back to the auditor and say, you know, something's not right here, we just need to fix this. I think that's what the treasurer is saying. My only hesitation and reservation, and this is not the chairman's fault, it would be nice if the auditor were here to address the subject. It would be nice if we could hear from her. I would ask that if the auditor is listening, that I really would prefer not to get an email explaining her position, but I think the best way to handle this is for her to come to our meetings and to address her views in that way. You know, so my only hesitation is I'd like to hear what the auditor has to say, but I don't disbelieve the treasurer either. So I don't want the treasurer to think that I disbelieve the treasurer. I just like to hear both sides of the story. And that's not the treasurer's fault. You it would be nice if the auditor were here. I guess that's the only way to say it. So my only hesitation is I can't vote. I'd like to hear what the auditor has to say. I mean, is there any way we can give the auditor one last chance to speak on this, or would that create any prejudice or delay with the treasurer's office?
Go ahead.
I will let you know that this is a workflow solution. That's what this is. This is a workflow solution. And I, in my email communication to the auditor, I have asked the auditor if she would like for us to make updates when I was in the process of sending her a request I was on my 3rd email or my 4th email. I mean, there have been requests that have nearly taken a dozen emails to get resolved. And I think that we as an organization can do better than that.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that, treasurer. I'm just saying, just my idea of the way things should be done is that we hear from both sides, but that's not your fault. I mean, she's not here to address the subject. It would be nice if she were. And I get what you're saying. Well, are we supposed to wait around for her to decide whether she's going to come or not and address us, or are we supposed to wait forever? It would be nice to hear from her. So I'm not going to vote yes on it until I hear from her. That might put me in the minority, but I would just like to give her an opportunity to respond to what's being said. But I also understand that giving someone an opportunity to respond to what's being said isn't an open-ended invitation. It's either you get here at the next meeting and you address it, or else, because this is not the first time that she's been asked to appear at meetings, and it's kind of hard to assess a situation when we can't even get her opinion, which is a problem which she creates of her own, not our issue, but it still would be nice to hear from her. So the reason that I would be voting no is not because I disagree with the treasurer's assessment. That is not the reason I'm voting no. I want that on the record. That's not the reason I'm voting no. I'm not questioning anybody's integrity. I'm not saying the treasurer is wrong. The only thing I'm saying is I'd like to hear someone else's opinion on it. So that's it. And that's why I want to explain the reason for my vote. Thanks.
All right. Anybody else? Member Brooks Stelling?
Yeah, I plan to support this. I appreciate you bringing this forward and explaining, Treasurer, in as you always do, great detail, why this will solve problems and how it will. I also appreciate Member Erickson's concern about speculation. This is one case where we don't have speculation. We have had a very difficult time as an elected body engaging in direct conversation with our auditor. We have requested in multiple committees, certainly over the last 7.5 years for me, her presence so that she can be here and have these conversations, and she oftentimes doesn't show up. We've heard from multiple individuals within the county organization, the treasurer, the chairman of the board, the county administrator, that she's unresponsive to email communication. That's not speculation. Those are direct people saying that they've had this experience. So our job is to make sure that the county organization runs appropriately and pays its bills. Responsible organization. And for that reason, I'm going to support this and hope that in a future meeting, we can have a conversation with the auditor and other meetings. It's not for a lack of trying, from what I understand from our chairman.
Mr.
Right.
Chair, call for the question.
I'll give Mr. Erickson the opportunity to respond, and then we'll move along.
I don't want my argument confused. My issue with speculation was on another issue. I mean, my argument for speculation was not addressing this issue. In fact, when I addressed the speculation point, it was before this point even came up. My point is merely just as a finder of fact and a decision maker, I'd like to hear both sides of the story before I make a decision. And though I will concur with the idea that it would be awfully nice if our auditor would come to our meetings and address it. I concur with that. It's just I'm a little hesitant to go forward, at least giving her one last opportunity. But I understand the frustration that some people are saying, how many opportunities would you like us to give her, Chuck? Well, I don't know. I mean, at some point, I agree with that sentiment, but I would just like to give her one last opportunity. And I would just ask the chairman, make a continual, give her a continual invitation every meeting for her to come to our meeting. So she's like, she's invited and that she's here, because at some point, I mean, it is what it is. And I don't want to get it in an email from her after this meeting. It's not the way to address the subject. The way to address the subject is come to the committee meeting, address it, and address it. So I just wanted to explain my vote. It's not a vote against the treasurer. It's just an idea of process for me. I'm very adamant about process. So I certainly am sympathetic to the idea that we have made an attempt to bring the auditor in here, and it's not the fault of the chairman. I know the chairman's invited her. It is what it is. So thanks.
Okay, Member Wolrab called for the question. Does anyone have an objection? If not, we are going to vote. Chairman will vote. A roll call vote.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
No, for the reasons explained.
Member Wolrab,
Aye.
Member Robustelli,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Aye.
Chairman Soldner.
Yes,
Give 6 yeses, 1 no, it passes.
motion carries. Okay, next item.
Can I
Yes.
make some comments in regards to the various questions that were asked of the administrator
Okay.
earlier? Is that okay if we just talk about that now? About some of the questions?
That's fine. I was gonna
asked of
ask
the
you
county
now, so-
administrator, is that okay with you?
That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. First of all, so you know how the flow of bills works. What the auditor brings to you is a retroactive list of bills that the county board is approved to pay. It's retroactive. That's how we do it in McLean County. Otherwise, you'd be having bills waiting to be paid for 30 or 40 days before that went through committee and whatever. Some counties do it differently. You guys approve them retroactively. They're already paid. We started putting a check register out on our website of the bills that are paid. We pay out of one bank account, and so there's a check register out on my website. I briefly discussed it with my civil states attorneys, and it doesn't release anything that is sensitive. It just says, here's the vendor name that we're paying, and this is how much is being paid. We can run very detailed reports out of the financial system and provide them to the county administrator, and which we can then have loaded onto the website. So I'm willing to cooperate with the county administrator's office and getting that done. Just wanted to let you know that.
Right. So, okay, I'll have a couple of questions for you then when we get down to the next item. Okay, next item then is to accept and place on file the county treasurer's monthly financial reports. Those were emailed to you. I would entertain a motion to do that. Member Barnett, second member Beard. Okay. Treasurer McNeil, you can go ahead and lead us away on this.
Okay, so the sales tax report is the first report that you have, and the sales tax that came in during the month of July is for the month of April. We have that lag there due to the way that IDOR processes everything. April was really the first month that we were in COVID, full, complete, entire month. And so you do see there was a sales tax drop compared to the vouchers that were released in July of 19. We received $440,621 in 2019, and here in 2020 we received $306,834. That's your quarter percent countywide. Your 1% in the unincorporated area, that was down just slightly by 1%. 39,606 compared to 40,000. Local use is up. Obviously cannabis is up because we didn't have that last year. Income tax is up, and PPRT is just ever so slightly down. So overall, we have receipts of 842,779 compared to 960,053 a year ago. The difference there is 117,273 for the month. Year-to-date comparison, we are tracking behind 2019, as you would expect, by 387,778. And then when we take a look at budget, right now we would like to be at 6,051,000. We are at 5,902,000. So we're under budget by 148,000. Okay, which is about 2.4%. The shared sales tax that we receive from the town of Normal and the city of Bloomington, obviously, that's the major sales tax category that those payments are coming from. And as you would expect, those are also going to be down, direct result of COVID. This year, between the two entities, we received 221,833, and last year this time it was 320,075. So about a 30% drop there. Overall, year to date, we are about 131,000 below where we were in 2019, and that's kind of following, you know, what we're seeing as far as the county goes, what's happening with City of Bloomington and Town of Normal. That fund equity is 11,236,379. The next category on there is the motor fuel tax. Again, county motor fuel and township motor fuel. We've got the regular CMFT there, the renewal fund. I mean, you can see we are a recipient of almost probably 1.7 million. Or 1.5 million there through the month of July from those renewal funds for the county and the township. July is slightly less. I made a note about that because according to the highway department, IDOT had to correct their distribution formula. So they just corrected it effective in July. And I think that went back several months. So you can see that those amounts under the county are significantly less. Going on down into the property tax revenue, through the month of July on the collector side, the collector has distributed 51.03%. I just want to touch briefly about what we saw at the end of July, because, you know, property taxes has been a big discussion at this committee. And in July of 2020 closed with 55.6% collected of the total levy of 349 million. July of 2019 closed with nearly the identical percentages. It was just off by a tenth or so. So we are tracking here in 2020, just like we were tracking in 2019. We have 2,169 parcels with a delinquent first installment. That is absolutely standard. That's typical where we're at this point in time. And the second installment taxes are due on September 17th. So I just want to let you know, I don't see anything at this point in time that's, you know, something that we need to be really significantly concerned about.
Good.
Okay.
All right, you can go on with the investments then.
Okay. And the investment report, I mean, we're just having a
I do have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Member Metzger.
So I see that we are down by 12% on, well, sales tax. I guess we are down by 30%. What percentage, maybe you don't know this, and if you don't know it at the top of your head, you can send me an email. But I was curious as to what percentage of our budget do we budget sales tax? I mean, what percentage of the total budget do we use sales tax?
I can send you an email. I try to condense everything to one page, but I can go in and look at the revenue line that this comes into, and I can look at what that is and compare it to budget for you. Like I said, this is just one report that's pulling a very, very large number of numbers. So I can get that to you. Okay.
Member Beard?
Thank you. And I apologize, Treasurer McNeil. I was going to wait until the end of your report, but as long as we're stopped for a second here. I got a question from a constituent, and it was a good question, asking what's the process? So in April is when we really saw people switching. A lot of the stores were closed down. So online retail, that's when you saw a lot of people buying stuff online because you couldn't buy it here in town. Is there an easy way to describe the process for how those taxes that I pay, you know, I put in my 61701 zip code when I buy something online? How do we get those, how are those taxes remitted back to us through the state?
The same way everything else is.
Okay, so there's not a good way to really divide those up or see those when we get that money from the state?
Correct, you're correct. We don't get detailed information as far as whether it was an online sale or not. We don't get anything like that.
Okay, and do we receive those pretty quickly then back?
Well, it's the same. It's the same thing as it's a 3-month lag. I mean, you know, these are April sales, and I assume the online retailers are held to the same standard as the small business retailers, where they have to report into the state of Illinois, you know, during the month of May, and then state of Illinois performs their calculations, and then that's transferred on down to us.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shall we go ahead, move along?
Okay. So, interest rates. You know, we started the year where we had a money market rate of 1.7, and we had interest rates coming in on CDs of, you know, anywhere between 1.5, 1.7, even some of them at 2%. And that is just not happening right now, as you would expect. You know, the Fed dropped the rate, and the Illinois Funds money market right now is at 0.18. So that's down by 90% compared to where we were at the beginning of the year. CD rates, we were lucky to get a special at 0.33 this week. And so, you know, again, I mean, you go from 1.7 down to 0.33, that's an 80% drop. So, yeah, the interest rates, unfortunately, we are going to go through a period of time where the interest rates on this report, you're going to start seeing them trickle down. There are going to be cases in which we cash out a CD because the bank just absolutely cannot give us a favorable rate at all on a renewal. So I just want to touch on that because I know budget's coming up. I had my budget meeting today, and I was asked about the number that I put in there for interest, and it is significantly lower than last year, but it is necessary to adjust it accordingly, as you know. So the finance report, we did, like I said, we had a couple CDs that matured this month. I had 2 of them were rolled off. I had 1 of them that we rolled over. I got 0.33%. And then we also had a smaller one where we got 0.55. It just kind of depends on where the banks are right now. We are still going to go out and do a request for proposals and see what they come back with. But right now, it's not looking very good. Overall, $64,965,452.96. I would say that July is probably one of those months where that balance gets pretty high, and that's because you have all your first installment in, and now we're going to start making some large payments because of that first installment coming in. So, any questions?
All right. Move along then.
The next report you have is the Blue Cross Blue Shield report. Little bit of good news to report, and that is just that in 2020, our premiums that we're paying are definitely lower than 2019. We are at total 3,512,000 compared to 3,634,000. Excuse me. That probably is a result of COVID, kind of tied to it, where you have less employees getting out, less employees having procedures done, and less employees going to the doctors. So we are down by 121,000, which is good because we actually were up in 2019. So.
Any questions on any of that report? Okay. Let's move on to the nursing home then.
One thing about that report I will point out to you, just going back to that, is that stop loss. Because of our stop loss agreement, we talk about that, that's our insurance policy. Our stop loss agreement has saved us $183,000 right now here through the month of July. So just wanted to point that out. It's good to have that in place. Moving on to that nursing home report. The nursing home report that you have is through the month of June. That's where the nursing home is reported to us through. The revenue is accrued. The expenses are where they are on the general ledger as of today for the month through the month of June. The revenue 951 for the month of June, 951,406 compared to the expenses of 758,545. The year-to-date revenue, accrued revenue, 3,894,000. The year-to-date recorded expenses, 4,029,000. The outstanding AR, 2,964,000. The cash balances, 1,506,000. And the fund equity, 3,704,289. Fund equity is down ever so slightly compared to where we were as of the beginning of the year.
All right. Any questions on that? Member Metzger?
I just want to thank you. I know that there was some question last month about reconciling those reports and they look good. So thank you.
Good, good. Let me take a second to just explain to the committee what that was, because I know some of those were a little concerned about that. I think it was that the nursing home is, what the nursing home is sending through to their committee is based on cash receipts, whereas I'm reporting to you based on accrual and based off of the general ledger, directly what hits the general ledger. What I give you is the same thing that goes into our CAFR basically at year end after all those adjustments are in. So.
Okay. All right. Any questions on those reports? Member Robustelli?
I just want to comment that it seems, if I'm reading this correctly, that we are 134,000 in the red in terms of the first 6 months, but in comparing that to previous years, that's actually pretty good, if I'm not mistaken.
You're correct.
And again, I think, and you're aware of it, we're still lagging by, a little bit behind, so we don't know what the coming months are going to be. But I think, as you said, we're in a good position for what it could.
I mean, Jim, last year it was $1.4 million that we were in the rear. So we'd have to, 6 months in, we can see it, and we're 100. That's pretty significant compared to where we were the last few years. That is, so I just point that out. Of course, things could get really bad over the next 6 months, but at least it's going in the right direction. I want to acknowledge that.
Hopefully everybody's got some wood to knock on while you're out there. Okay. So we had a motion made in a second. We've had discussion. Any more discussion? If not, then we're ready to vote to put these reports into our file then. Send them on to the rest of the board. Ready to vote? All those in favor say, I'm sorry, roll call vote.
And you're gonna vote.
I'm gonna vote.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
thank you. Member Woolrab,
Aye.
Member Robustelli.
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Aye.
Chairman Soldner.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So the only other question I was going to ask, and then I'll allow other members. We were talking earlier during the auditor's time about how you communicate if you are going to be going on vacation, if you're taking a sick day. And obviously every elected maybe does it a little different. I was just wondering if you would mind kind of giving us some idea how you deal with that. I realize you have more employees in your office, and again, maybe it's something you don't have a specific way of doing that. I was just curious.
I communicate with my staff
Okay.
and
That's
I
good.
put my out of office on
Okay.
if I'm gonna be gone
You call me.
for an extended period of time. And I also, I keep in touch with the county administrator's office. I mean, as you can imagine, there's, usually there does not go a day does not go by when we get a little surprise in our office, whether it's an ACH coming in for $400,000 that nobody's told us anything about. There's just a lot of communication with grants and payments and whatnot. But as long as I have been here in the county, and you can certainly consult with your state's attorney, as long as I've been an elected official, and as long as my department has done payroll for every department of this county, elected officials don't record hours taken, such as hours taken due to vacation or hours taken due to sick, or they don't record hours because by state statute, their salary is set. And so it is by county administration divided over 26 pay periods and just paid according to that resolution and according to state statute.
Okay.
So, but again, you would have to consult with Mr. Knapp. I don't believe that there's anything in statute which would require an elected official of the county to record their hours worked in the same manner as an employee.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the treasurer? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give us more good news next month. All right, next on our agenda, we have Kathy Michael, County Clerk. Looks like she's on the phone with us. One item, item D1A, request approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Bloomington, County of McLean for use of the arena as a voting center on Election Day, November 3rd, 2020. I would entertain a motion. Member Walrab, second. Member Metzger, sorry. All right. Ms. Michael, would you like to explain this item?
Well, this is can you hear me okay? Okay, good. This is we're getting a lot of questions about this. The vote center is new this year, mandated by that new SB 1863, where every jurisdiction has to have a vote center on election day. And what that is another avenue for voters to have the opportunity to vote, which is a great thing. But it does say jurisdiction. So that's why we are here today. We have to have the special paperwork done and authorized where we can join Bloomington Election Commission at the arena. If not, by statute, we would have to have our vote center because we have 2 jurisdictions in McLean County. So we would have to have ours in Normal, which is the largest voting area. I think, and we think that would be a great service to the voters and confusing. So we asked if there was a way that we could combine with Bloomington Election Commission, and that's why we're here today. This paperwork gives us the authorization to join BEC at the arena so that we don't have 2 separate locations for the voters for the vote center on election day. And the vote center is very similar to early voting. And what that means is every registered voter in McLean County can come to the vote center and vote. So for me, I thought if a person that's working in Normal or working in downtown Bloomington and is from Normal and they hear about the vote center at the arena and they go there to vote and they say, sorry, you have to go to Normal because you're in a different jurisdiction. So we're hoping this makes sense that we can combine and all the voters can just go to one location on election day at the vote center. Now, we're getting a lot of questions because folks are asking, well, does this mean we can't go to our polling place? Yes, yes, you can. This is just another avenue for you to vote. Let's say you go to your polling place on election day and there are lines. You can say, oh, I know about the arena, so I can go down there and see if there aren't as long of lines. So it's another great opportunity. So I hope you'll see that that's acceptable. It gives us a lot more room for the voters because of the great expanse of those lobbies that we'll be in. And that's the reason we are here today.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the county clerk? And this will only be for election day, is that correct?
That's correct. And the bill for now was just for this year because of COVID. Now, whether they bring that back, that's not what we're even looking at, but it's just for this election only, for the vote center, for election day. Now, keep in mind, we will also be at the arena for early voting, but we have legal permission to go ahead and do that. We just need this paperwork done so that we can also join VEC for the vote center on election day.
All right. Member Beard.
I apologize if you mentioned this before, but I don't know what the parking situation is with the deck at the downtown. Is free parking going to be available? Are you guys working on that?
Yes, free parking will be available, and the arena was very receptive to us being there and are not going to charge us any kind of fee for having the setup there.
Thank you.
All right. Member Metzger.
Ms. Michael, you said there's early voting there. Is there early voting also in that facility for the city of Bloomington, or is it just the county that's going to be there for early voting? Just curious.
No, that's all inclusive. It's great for all voters. So we're trying to not confuse the voters and make it more difficult for them. We will also be at Eastland Mall again, and that will include all voters, VEC and us, and the rest of the county.
All right. Any other questions? Ready to vote? All right, a roll call vote, I will vote.
Thank you. Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
We didn't hear you.
sorry, Chuck, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Woolrab,
Aye.
Member Robustelli,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Aye.
Chairman Solomon.
Yes.
Pass
All right, that's very good. So other than that, we have your general report. Is there anything you'd like to highlight on any of that?
Not really. I will say that the vote by mail applications are coming in by the hundreds. So it's been a very interesting first time experience for us. We love a challenge, and we've got one. So we've got a team ready and seems to be going well, but very interesting. You know, we have over 3,000 applications received now. The highest we've ever had is 1,500, and we're getting about 300 to 400 applications a day, which is very interesting, and it's a good thing that I think the people of McLean County have confidence in our vote by mail.
Right. Member Beard.
Thank you, Ms. Michael. And I also want to say thank you for all the videos and the info you've been putting out on social media. It's really helpful explaining the process. It's new for a lot of people this year. One of the things that you mentioned last month was talking to the USPS and about working with them on the mail processing. And it kind of came to light. There was a congressional race in New York that I think just today was decided 6 weeks after voting. And one of the issues they had with that was a lot of the vote by mail applications that were not stamped. So they would get in a vote, the law in New York says it has to be received and stamped by election day. And they got in, I think, thousands that had no date stamp. So they were unable, so those were initially disqualified, and that went back and forth. I wonder if you could shed light on some of the conversations that you've had and how, and that's like a nightmare scenario that, what happens if all of a sudden you get a lot of, people vote by mail and they're not, and you have this kind of back and forth. Any updates you could provide on around that space would be great.
Yeah, that's a great question. And by stamped, you don't mean the physical stamp. You mean
I mean, the post office didn't postmark it. Sorry.
Right. And that's always been a concern for a lot of folks, as you wonder of what you read and hear. So you have to be careful with that, of how inundated these post offices are going to be with these, and will they be postmarked properly? Well, I will tell you, we started a teleconferencing call with the USPS 3 months ago. And I can tell you, we are very impressed, and I have Democrats and Republicans, election judges actually working with us part-time on these calls, and they are on it. We just got 2 emails today from the USPS because we understand that they have been designated certain team leaders for certain areas. They're really very organized now. Maybe they always have been, but they understand the importance of this. They asked us how the mailing was going, thanked us for using them, like we're going to use somebody else, but thank you for using them for the mail service, and how things are going. Have you had any delays? We have a retired gentleman, a Democrat, if I might add, he wouldn't mind me telling you that, from a major insurance company here in town, who had a long history with working with the Postal Service. He's kind of in charge with that communication. So he has daily conversations with them. Where you are you having any trouble? No offense, do you have enough staff? So it's very rewarding to find out, not that we didn't expect this, how on it they are to make sure that everything is going well. So we feel very confident with the process. I hope that answers your question.
It does. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Michael? Member Woolrath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank you, Ms. Michaels, for all your hard work. I'm sure this is an interesting challenge for you. I did receive in the mail yesterday the mailing you sent out about applying for ballots, and your mailing here. And I had a question about something on there. Maybe you could shed some light for me and tell me how that process is supposed to work. Under step 2, submit this application for the ballot. It is submit this application to our office, and the 4th bullet point on there says your application must be received by our office by October 29th if sent through the mail, or by November 2nd if delivered in person. Given that the election is, I believe, November 3rd, I'm wondering how, if you're applying for a ballot by November 2nd, how does your office plan to get the ballot in the hands of the voter in time for them to get it back to you by the deadline on election day?
Well, that's a very good question. Those are state mandated dates. So that's where we hope, and that's why we are further have confidence that if the post office receives that many requests and applications, we are supposed to get all those out and in the mail, and the post office is supposed to get all those back. I don't have any concerns really, but you don't know what the future is going to be. What if we get 5,000 requests on October 29th? Well, it's our obligation and our duty to make sure that those get out to the voters. We have a team. I just hired 12 part-time people. And now the good news is that we get money from the federal government, that I hope $200,000 will cover all these expenses. But we're trying to cover all our bases to make sure that if we have to work on Saturdays, Sundays, and evenings to make sure that these are all processed, we are going to do that. But it's a good question. How do we know that we're going to get those out in the mail, and the mail is going to get those back in time? And you have to have faith, but we have to do just the best that we can.
So if someone comes in, brings a hand-delivered application for a ballot into your office on November 2nd, would you just then hand them the ballot at that point? So it wouldn't be, because there's no way it could go through the mail and get to them in time, and then for them to return it.
And I'm sorry, do you mean if they brought their ballot in, would we process it?
No, I'm asking about the application because the wording says that your application must be received by our office by the 29th if it's sent through the mail, or by November 2nd if delivered in person. So
We
bringing
process
their-
that, we print the ballot at that time and have the voter vote it.
Okay. All right, thank you. So, but really you would encourage people to get the applications into your office much sooner than October 2nd, 29th, I suppose.
Most definitely, and if you can at all, please don't walk in on election day, but we understand that people might have to do that. But be prepared to wait a little bit, but we'll process and print your ballot and let you vote it. I mean, that's the law. It's gonna happen. If everybody has to stay there midnight or 2 or 3 in the morning, we're gonna do it.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again next month.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the county administrator. We dealt with E1A, but I see Mr. Rash is on the phone. Would you like to?
Yes, I am.
Yes, hi, Mr. Rash. It's
Hi there.
Camille Rash is here. Hello and welcome. We tried to be kind to you, and we actually brought forth that action item right at the beginning.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, please do not.
I had some technical difficulties on my end.
I wondered if that was the case, and Julie Morlock, our assistant here, was trying to reach you, as was I. So what we want to do is, if I may, Chairman Soldner, I don't know if Mr. Rash wants to speak on the matter. Mr. Rash, the committee unanimously supported this action, so good news. We're very.
I appreciate that.
Does
Does anybody have any questions about the mortgage credit certificate program?
Member Woolrab?
Thanks. I was just wondering how people find out about that. Is that through their banker or their real estate agent?
Yes, it's a combination of both. And I will just, so you know, the program has been available in McLean County since 2003, and the county is the largest participating county in the state historically. You've got a very well-educated lender and banking base that's very well-versed in utilizing the program, and I think that they would all be very happy to see the program continue.
All right. Any other questions? Let's see, Member Beard and then Member Erickson.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great program. Our first home, which was in Normal, Illinois, and we were certainly within the income requirements, but our lender recommended the MCC program, the certificate. We got it. It's really great. So glad to see it continue. And thank you for bringing this forward.
Appreciate it.
Member Erickson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question was merely if on some of the grant programs or credit programs, there's just trying to distinguish us from others. For my own curiosity's sake, if you do something within 5 years, you have to, there's a work back of that.
Yeah,
back.
like a clawback.
Yeah,
there's there's nothing like that with this particular program.
Okay.
If it's we're not providing a first mortgage in this instance. We're providing a federal tax credit. So the answer is no.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, Mr. Ross, thanks for joining us. And as it passed with unanimous vote, and so hopefully we we can make it work then. Thank you.
Can I ask one question? When will this be going to the full board?
It will go, Mr. Rash, on August 18th at 5:30
Great.
p.m. So we
At the
will
meeting.
see you shortly thereafter. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank
All right.
you.
Okay, then next item is E1B, request approval of reclassification for nurses at the jail medical. I would entertain a motion to that effect. Someone, Member Barnett, second. Member Beard. Mr. Rodriguez, would you like to lead us on that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman Soldner. So you have in your packet a memo authored by our HR manager, Michelle Butler, and Shelley Welch, the clinic supervisor at the McLean County Detention Facility. They brought it to my attention after analysis of the hiring trends that were occurring between the nursing home and the detention facility, that we had some disparities in what we were able to offer the nurses at the detention facility. And so we are bringing forth this change to that. And we're recommending a reclassification because we feel like the clinical care provided at either facility, although not entirely the same, presents some similarities in risk. And so we wanted to make sure that we had the ability to offer prospective candidates a salary that was similar, and also to attract, because as you can see from the memo, we are experiencing some need at the detention facility. I think that she wouldn't mind me saying, because she shared it at Health Committee, that the retiring nurse is actually Ms. Welch. So we are going to need to be recruiting furiously here. Her last day is sometime in early September. And so we're already planning her exit. And in doing so, this was something that we felt we should address. So hopefully I can answer any questions you might have.
Does anyone have any questions? All right, ready to vote? Okay, roll call vote.
Chairman, you're gonna vote?
Yes, I will vote.
Ms. Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Woolrab,
Yes,
Member Robustelli,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Aye.
Chairman Solomon.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right, motion carries. Next item is E1C, request approval of a reclassification for the Records Division personnel in the Sheriff's Department. Would someone like to make that motion? Member Robustelli, second. Member Beard. Okay, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chairman Soldner. Sheriff Sandage provided me with this memo requesting some reclassifications in his records division. One is related to the difficulty in recruiting for an office support specialist one. There have been multiple opportunities within county government, let alone outside our purvey and other private industry, for that type of job in the office support specialist 2 type of category. So the sheriff has been losing, for all good reasons, for folks to get promoted, leaving his office. But it's not very good on competition for him to fill, especially internally. And so that's one of the reasons for the request to change the OSS 1 to a 2. And then the other is to change one of the supervising office support specialists to a clerical division supervisor 2 position. Now that request was made after analysis of additional duties completed by that individual that were highly complex, highly confidential, involving criminal background checks through leads, et cetera. And a number of those reasons are indicated to you in his memo. And as well as as even the analysis of what it would cost to complete these actions. And so I think that at the end of the day, not unlike the detention facility request, we are taking the time to look at how we can recruit and retain the personnel that are needed to do the job in these growingly complex environments. And so hopefully I can answer any questions that you might have.
I saw where the sheriff in his note said that his budget will be able to absorb that for this year, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Any questions? Member Woolrab.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for Ms. Rodriguez. When you recommended that reclassification, I know we have a system, and the name of it escapes me at the moment, that you go through where you look at the duties and then you peg the job to a certain job salary level. Was that something you did for this?
Absolutely. We call it a PAM score, PAM. I might not be able to reiterate what the acronym stands for, but it's relative to assessing what individuals have as duties and then what they are paid. And we absolutely followed policy in this regard and completed those. Actually, the sheriff's staff completed that, and we reviewed it and agreed.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Roll call vote. I will vote.
Member Metzger.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Erickson.
Yes.
Member Woolrab.
Yes.
Member Robustelli.
Yes.
Member Beard.
Yes.
Member Barnett.
Yes.
Chairman Solomon.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Now we're to E2, which are the items to be presented for information. First one's the update of McLean County Targeted Development Loan Program. And Ms. Rodriguez, you may take it away.
Thank you, Chairman. I have an update from our Economic Development Council Executive Director, Patrick Hoban. I should say that Chairman Soldner and I, in preparation for this meeting when we discussed the agenda, thought that perhaps next month Mr. Hoban could visit us in person. I believe his schedule allows, and we'll continue to update you on whether or not he will come in person. At this time, I just thought it easy enough to update you just via some information he sent to me. So relative to the subsidiary of the Bloomington Normal Economic Development Council, which is the Community Development Corporation, which administers your microbridge loan and your recovery loan, I want you to know that as in regards to an application update, the very first recovery loan was approved in the amount of $5,000. Interestingly enough, there was a private donor that insisted on covering that expense. They did not want to be named, but they wanted to do so to save the county's funds for future endeavors. So I just think that's just a show of how amazing this community is and how we're pulling together in large and small ways to address this pandemic and address the needs of our small businesses. So I just thought that was amazing. I'll have to say that I sit on this committee and make decisions appropriately as such in my role. And I had no idea when I was reviewing this application that a private donor was going to take it on. So it was fantastic to hear that. In other news, the EDC has received no other new applications since the last update back on June 29th that they gave in person. But they do have an interested business that they're working with. And Mr. Hoban tells me that he feels that because the Paycheck Protection Program was replenished, we are still going to see a lull in the interest. And I would hope that you as a finance committee and perhaps, if I may say, the county board as a whole stays positive, because we did do some great work to pull together with Mr. Hoban and create these programs. And I do think they are still going to be applicable in the future as situations with things like the PPP program changes. I wanted you also to know on the marketing side to update you as per was your request. The EDC and the chamber got together and are working with the Pantograph on a marketing campaign for these recovery loans, in addition with their reopening guide that they created early on during the pandemic, and also through their website, bnprepared.org. Their ads run on the online and in the print edition of the Pantograph. They also are doing a social media blitz and doing some audio formats of that. And they said that on the recovery loan side, just on Facebook, I'm no social media guru. So this term called paid reach, PAID reach, I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, but the paid reach of those Facebook ads is 52,086 individuals. So it seems like it's reaching some folks in the community, and I think that's super positive. They did ask if you can assist the EDC by directing any of your constituents who are interested, business owners, to the EDC at 309-452-8437. So that concludes my update through the information I received from Mr. Hoban. I can definitely try to answer any questions, but as I said, Chairman Soldner and I will definitely work to have Mr. Hoban here next month and have a deeper conversation.
Any questions on any of that? Okay, I'm sorry, Member
Member
Metzger.
Metzger.
How do we, I know the person's anonymous. However, how do we make sure that they are appropriately thank you note, something to let them know that it's acknowledged and we appreciate their generosity?
Well, I think we could do an old-fashioned thank you note, and we could have Mr. Hoban perhaps give it to this individual who wished to remain anonymous. I'll take that task on, and I'll make sure that I find a way to circulate a thank you note to all of you somehow in this virtual way, but we'll find a way. So I'll take that on, Member Metzger, if you don't mind.
Okay, moving on into the
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Chairman. Yeah. Can I just, since we're going to bring Mr. Hoban to the committee next month, I just want to reiterate something I said, I think it was a month ago or the month before, which is just, I hope he'll come also with other ideas. I mean, I really would like us to not react. I mean, we're going to always have to react as a community, but assuming that things, let's assume that things are far worse than we can even imagine for our local business community. What tools should we be thinking about sooner, and sort of pre-planning for that? If it's making these more flexible, if it's a whole different kind of thing that would help support small businesses, whatever it is, I really hope that he'll come to this committee and provide us with some guidance or some recommendations to the best of his ability. It's easier for us to do that earlier rather than in November or December when we have to react to things. So I just want to put that out there and encourage him to think like that.
Okay, very good. Okay, all right. Then update on the Downstate Business Stabilization Program.
We have not had any applications yet as well for the Downstate Business Stabilization Program. We are at the ready, should we receive one, to then implement all of the steps that are required for participation in that program, which includes public hearings and the like. So we just regularly communicate with the EDC and ensure that we're on the same page if we have to react. I think in my discussions with Mr. Hoban, it is also his assessment that with the other programs out there, some folks are opting for the other programs versus the one offered by the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunities. So that's the only update I have on that.
Questions on that? Okay. Item C, report on recent employment activities.
Yes, and as you see on page 48 of your packet, we have been fairly busy throughout this month completing some hires. So that's available to you to review. Can answer questions if you have them.
Any questions? I see the last one is the executive director or the director of the Bloomington Elections Commission. Is that our job?
Yes, so the Bloomington Election Commission is a curious part of our budget. There are 2 employees of the Election Commission that are actually classified as county employees. Others are city employees, so we share that quite literally, even in the delegation of who is a city and a county employee. And so when the previous director recently retired, they hired a new director, and so they are a county employee. Yep.
Okay. Any questions? All right, then lastly, I believe we have our presentation to make us.
I do. I've shortened it only because Ms. McNeil provides you with so much of the same information, and so I'm happy to email you what I have, but for brevity's sake, and not to repeat all of the financial information that our treasurer provided, I know that you have, throughout the pandemic, especially wanted updates on our financials, and especially as Assistant County Administrator Kathy Dreyer and Cassie Taylor work with me and all of the department heads to get through this budget process. It's just a great time to let you know that in addition to the good news that Treasurer McNeil provided, we concur. We wouldn't have any different numbers than she. But what we do want you to know about the general fund, and this is what I will email you, is the snapshot on the general fund is that on revenues, as compared to 2019, it looks to us like we are down 1%, about $256,167. And on expenses, as compared to 2019, we are down over $1 million. We are working hard on this end, very hard with department heads to hold off on major purchases. It is something that we've repeatedly shared with you. We are not stopping all purchases or major expense considerations when they need to be done. But even during this year, for things that are budgeted and in consideration of the pandemic and some of the reductions in what we have seen in sales tax or property tax revenue, we've tried to be extremely conservative. We also know that we are still not complete with all of the department head budget meetings. So in early July, all of the department heads completed their work inside our financial software system. That system has been locked, so they cannot get inside of it and change anything anymore unless we let them back in. But we will be, county administration, completing its meetings with department heads as of, I believe, next week, or August 14th, I believe that is. And once that's complete, sometimes we meet with certain departments again, some that have more complex budgets or some that we need to revisit some decisions about some of their requests, or even continuation of some of the things that they had normally budgeted for, but perhaps in time of pandemic and in time of being conservative, we need to take a look at again. So in all, I want to assure you that as the treasurer reported, we're feeling fairly good. We are feeling like we still obviously have, we are only in mid-August here, but as far as getting a budget prepared for you, that reflects the needs of your constituents, that reflects the complexity of the services we provide. We think we're in good shape. And those numbers I read to you, I will email those to you soon this evening. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about this.
Any questions for Ms. Rodriguez? All right, very good. So then, does any member have anything else under other? Member Wolrab first, then Mr. Barnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wondering for the administrator, had several people contact me concerning the streaming of our meetings, and they apparently are no longer, or were not yesterday, and the day before streamed on Facebook. And I just was wondering if you could speak to that, if that's a change going forward or some problem.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that question. It is a change. We are working to be more congruent with the other local governments in our region. The members of the Illinois Association of County Administrators, we connect quite often, and the mainstay was YouTube. I also looked at the collegial aspects of this with the town and the city, and they also use YouTube. And I think ultimately we were trying to streamline this with the intent eventually to be able to see if we can do this ourselves. A little awkward to say that with the broadleaf helping us stream this, obviously. But I think that in our long-term look at those aspects of this process, which is so vital in a pandemic and going forward for the community to be able to view our meetings, we wanted to make it streamlined for us. As well, as you know from our discussions on cybersecurity and the liability insurance that we carry, we felt that reducing the places and spaces we were streaming might be a wise thing to do as we do it more. I'm sure you can imagine the number of meetings that we stream each month. And I think that reducing our footprint on certain streaming venues, don't know the other word I should use, would be wise. And so that is the only reason that I made that decision. And I did it with our IT department because we just felt it was a wise thing to do as we move in phases towards being able to do this on our own, perhaps without hiring out a contractor, a third-party person. Yep.
All right, Mr. Barnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to take a quick minute. Back in June at one of our meetings, I had requested that administration and the state's attorney's office look into the formation of a non-discrimination policy for use with our vendors. And I just wanted to let the committee know that that is still in the works. As you know, the state's attorney's office has had some turnover in the civil division that has now been filled, and the state's attorney's office on the other side has had their hands full over the past couple of months with some murder trials and some other things, but some language is being drafted, and hope to have that for the committee to be able to consider perhaps in September. So just wanted to update you on that. And if Administrator Rodriguez had anything else to share to that effect, I'd be happy to turn that over to her.
Member Barnett, you covered it so well. Thank you. Yeah, that's a perfect summary. Thank you.
Thanks for mentioning that.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone have anything else? Did I miss anybody? All right. We have bills to pay. Prepaid total and the fund total are the same, $1,210,988.08. I would entertain a motion to pay those bills. Member Metzger, second. Member Wolrab. Any questions? All those roll call vote.
It's hard to switch that.
Mhm.
And you're gonna vote on this?
I will vote. I'm sorry.
Member Metzger,
Yes.
Member Erickson,
Yes.
Member Wolrab,
Aye.
Member Robustelli,
Yes.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Barnett,
Aye.
Chairman Folder.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. That's all we have. Thank you all. Be safe, and meeting's adjourned.
Your masks.